5:12 local time. The sea lies flat and undisturbed, the horizon empty in every direction, and inside the Combat Information Center of a United States Navy destroyer moving just miles ahead of a carrier strike group, something on the radar screen shifts. Two new contacts materialize, high altitude, moving fast, descending from the north. The ship's Spy-1 Delta phased array radar paints them without hesitation. Weak returns at first, growing more defined with each successive sweep. A tracking officer leans forward toward his console. Two fast movers bearing 034. No transponder, no identification code, no filed flight plan. Just two aircraft cutting across open ocean at speed. Range 178 nautical miles. Inside the Combat Information Center, the lighting stays dim. The air cold and recycled, the atmosphere deliberately unhurried. Nobody raises their voice, no alarm sounds. Every operator already knows the sequence. The contacts are tagged and queued for classification. Speed calculated, Mach 1.6. That figure alone eliminates any commercial explanation. The watch officer issues a quiet, measured instruction. Track and classify. The next radar sweep returns additional detail. Both aircraft are holding near 40,000 feet, maintaining tight formation, flying directly toward the carrier strike group. No deviation in heading, no radio transmission, just velocity and direction. The destroyer transmits its first hail across International Guard frequencies. Unidentified aircraft approaching United States naval formation. This is a United States Navy warship. Identify yourself and declare your intentions. The transmission dissolves into empty sky. No answer comes back. In the hangar bay of the carrier sailing behind the destroyer, deck crews continue moving through their standard routines. A pair of Foxtrot Alpha 18 Echo Super Hornets sit on alert status. Engines cold, pilots not yet in the cockpit, but both aircraft ready to move within minutes. Sailors cross the flight deck without urgency, unaware that 170 miles away, two aircraft are closing that distance at a steady, deliberate pace. Back inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, the radar operators hold their track. Range 160 miles. The strike group commander receives the update immediately through the encrypted tactical data network linking every ship and aircraft in the formation. The response is calm and precise, a single instruction passed through secured channels. Monitor the contacts, do not escalate. Another sweep. The radar return sharpens. The cross-section is wider than a standard lightweight fighter would produce. The air search controller studies the data and speaks quietly. Possible twin-engine platform. That single assessment moves the situation forward. An Echo 2 Delta Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft is ordered off the carrier. On the flight deck, the large turboprop rolls to the catapult. Its rotating radar dome catches the pale early morning light as the catapult fires and the aircraft lunges into the sky. Within minutes, the Hawkeye is climbing above the formation, its radar already sweeping hundreds of miles of airspace in every direction. The aircraft locks both contacts almost immediately. Altitude confirmed, 40,000 feet. Speed unchanged, course still pointed directly at the strike group. Inside the Hawkeye's mission compartment, electronic surveillance systems begin pulling emissions data from the two unknown aircraft. Several seconds pass. Then a technician speaks. Radar signature detected. The waveform means nothing to civilian databases, but military analysts recognize it without hesitation. Flanker family radar. These are not transport planes. They are fighters. A second scan confirms the airframe profile. Large wingspan, twin-engine configuration, heavy radar output. The Hawkeye relays its assessment across the strike group network. Possible Sukhoi Su-35. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, no one reacts outwardly, but every sailor at every console understands the implication. The Su-35 is not a reconnaissance aircraft. It is a long-range air superiority fighter built to carry anti-ship missiles, weapons designed specifically to destroy ships the size of an aircraft carrier. Range 120 miles. Across the formation, adjustments are made without announcement. Two destroyers shift position slightly ahead of the carrier's track. A cruiser tightens its defensive arc around the formation's center. Electronic warfare systems come online across multiple ships, sweeping the spectrum for targeting signals. The approaching aircraft still make no radio contact. No course change, no identification. At 100 miles, the Hawkeye picks up something new. Infrared sensors detect external stores mounted beneath the wings of both fighters. Hardpoints loaded, large missile bodies. The strike group command channel goes quiet for several seconds while analysts confirm what they are seeing. 4 pylons, substantial weapon profiles, anti-ship missiles are the leading assessment, and the 2 aircraft are still driving straight toward the formation at Mach 1.6. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display presents a clear and sobering picture. 100,000 tons of American steel moving through open water, and 2 Iranian-operated Su-35 fighters eating up the distance between them. 5:24 local time. The 2 aircraft are now 82 nautical miles from the carrier strike group. Their speed has not changed, their course has not changed. Inside the Echo, 2 Delta Hawkeye orbiting high above the fleet, radar operators track every movement. The aircraft's APO-9 radar sweeps across hundreds of miles of airspace, feeding the tactical picture in real time. 2 contacts dominate the display, fast, committed, inbound. Then the aircraft begin to move differently. The lead jet descends first, dropping from 40,000 feet to 25,000. The second follows several seconds later. Lower altitude cuts radar visibility and improves the geometry of a missile launch. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, the Air Defense Coordinator registers the change immediately. Altitude change confirmed. Another operator studies the developing picture. They are splitting. The 2 fighters widen the gap between them. One climbs back toward 30,000 feet. The other continues descending to 18,000. The formation now brackets the strike group across 2 separate attack angles. A textbook pincer geometry. From the fleet's perspective, it means 2 possible missile launch vectors arriving from different directions. At this range, that distinction matters enormously. The Hawkeye updates the entire formation. 2 Su-35s confirmed, possible anti-ship loadout. The message travels instantly through the Cooperative Engagement Capability Network, connecting every ship in the strike group. Every tactical display now shows the same picture. 2 red symbols moving steadily closer. On the flight deck of the carrier, the alert fighters are no longer waiting. Steam bursts from the number 1 catapult track. 2 Foxtrot Alpha 18 Echo Super Hornets surge forward and climb into the morning sky. Call signs Raptor 1 and Raptor 2. Their tasking is straightforward. Intercept. The 2 fighters climb hard and accelerate immediately after launch, pointing their noses toward the incoming threat. Back inside the Hawkeye, electronic surveillance operators continue monitoring the emissions coming off the Su-35s. Then something shifts. A sharp spike cuts across the spectrum display. Radar energy, but not search radar. One of the Iranian fighters has changed modes. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, the electronic warfare officer speaks without inflection. Fire control radar active. That changes everything. Search radar sweeps broad areas of sky looking for contacts. Fire control radar locks onto a specific object in preparation for releasing a weapon. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, the electronic warfare officer speaks without inflection. Fire control radar active. The Hawkeye confirms the signal and pushes it across the formation network. Possible targeting radar detected. Distance to the fleet 60 miles. The carrier strike group does not fire. Not yet, but the defensive network activates without announcement. The Aegis combat system aboard 2 destroyers assigns tracking solutions to both incoming aircraft. Vertical launch cells below deck transition from standby to armed. Surface-to-air interceptors are ready. Above the ocean, Raptor 1 and Raptor 2 continue closing. Their radars sweep forward and both fighters acquire the targets. 2 large returns, twin engine signatures, exactly where the Hawkeye projected them. The intercept geometry is good. Distance between the American fighters and the Su-35s is collapsing. 30 miles, 25. The Iranian aircraft do not turn. No hesitation, no deviation. Then a new signal appears. Infrared sensors detect a brief flash beneath the lower Su-35, a flicker lasting less than a second, but unmistakable to the analysts watching it. A weapon system powering up. The destroyer's Combat Information Center receives the data without delay. Missile guidance radar. The anti-ship weapon mounted beneath that aircraft's wing is no longer dormant. It is active and ready to release. Inside the strike group's command center, nobody speaks for several seconds. Every eye is fixed on the tactical display. The range is now 45 nautical miles. Certain anti-ship missiles at that distance can reach their targets in under a minute from the moment they separate from the aircraft. The American intercept fighters are closing fast, but have not yet reached weapons release range. The Su-35s hold their attack geometry: one aircraft high, one low. Two vectors, two angles of approach. Electronic warfare systems aboard the destroyers begin transmitting jamming energy into the sky ahead of the formation, probing the guidance chains of the incoming fighters. The signals spread invisibly through the air. The Iranian aircraft press forward regardless. 38 miles. Then the Hawkeye's infrared camera catches movement beneath the wing of the lower Su-35, a missile shifting slightly on its pylon. Inside the Combat Information Center, the Air Defense Coordinator speaks at a measured pace. Stand by. The Aegis system refines its intercept calculations automatically. Surface-to-air missiles below deck are locked onto their solutions. The Super Hornets are seconds away from their own release range, but the Iranian fighters have already reached theirs. 32 miles. Then a bright flash erupts beneath the wing of the lead Su-35, 5:31 local time. The flash lasts under a second, but every sensor in the carrier strike group captures it simultaneously. Infrared satellites, airborne radar, shipboard tracking systems. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, the tactical display updates without pause. A new symbol appears. Small, fast, and descending. Missile launch confirmed. The weapon separates cleanly from the pylon and its booster motor fires. A bright exhaust plume stretches behind it as the missile accelerates away from the fighter and begins pushing its nose toward the ocean surface. Sea-skimming trajectory, designed to disappear into the radar clutter, churned up by waves and spray. Speed builds rapidly. Mach 3. At that velocity, the missile covers a mile every 2 seconds. Distance to the carrier strike group, 28 nautical miles. Time to potential impact, under 40 seconds. Inside the Combat Information Center, the lighting remains dim and the temperature stays cold. No sudden movement at any console, but every operator shifts into the terminal phase of air defense procedure. Condition 1. The highest alert state a warship can reach. On the tactical display, the missile track drives toward the center of the formation. The carrier. The Aegis combat system aboard the destroyer calculates an intercept solution without waiting for a human command. Phased array radar locks onto the incoming weapon, and the computer assigns the optimal defensive response. Solution confirmed. A single fire control command appears on the console. Engage. Below the deck, armored hatches slide back across a vertical launch cell, and Standard Missile 6 interceptor fires upward in a column of white flame and gray smoke. The round clears the tube, rolls toward the horizon, and reaches Mach 3 within seconds of leaving the ship. Two missiles now race toward each other above open ocean. One designed to destroy carriers, one designed to destroy missiles. The attack is not finished. High above the engagement, the second Su-35 executes its own maneuver. A shallow bank, just enough to open a new firing angle. Infrared sensors capture the moment. Another flash, second missile away. This weapon follows a different path, descending aggressively until it is flying no more than 15 feet above the ocean surface. Lower than the first, harder to detect against the radar clutter, harder to intercept with long-range systems. Inside the Combat Information Center, two separate threat tracks now mark the display. Missile 1 and Missile 2, two different vectors converging on the strike group from offset directions. The Air Defense Coordinator issues the next instruction: assign second intercept. The nearby cruiser receives the tasking automatically through the networked Aegis system. Another vertical launch cell fires. An evolved Sea Sparrow missile climbs hard into the morning sky. Three missiles are now airborne, 2 defensive interceptors, 1 inbound weapon still running. The first intercept resolves quickly. The Standard Missile-6 tracks the initial anti-ship weapon using continuous radar illumination from the destroyer's phased array. The fire control computer refines the intercept solution dozens of times each second as the distance collapses. 2 miles, 1 mile, half a mile. A detonation flashes high above the waterline. The first anti-ship missile breaks apart in a violent burst as the interceptor fires its warhead beside it. Debris scatters across the sky and drops into the sea. Inside the Combat Information Center, the radar track disappears. First threat neutralized. The second missile is still running, and it is flying much lower. At 15 feet above the ocean surface, the weapon buries itself in radar clutter generated by wave crests and spray. For several seconds, it nearly vanishes from every screen. Then the destroyer's sensors recover the track. Range 7 miles. Time to impact under 12 seconds. The engagement envelope for long-range interceptors has closed. The next layer of defense comes online without a command being issued. Aboard a nearby destroyer, a phalanx close-in weapon system rotates its turret toward the horizon. The system's own radar acquires the incoming contact immediately and locks without assistance. Tracking solution complete. The 6-barrel rotary cannon begins spinning up toward its operational rate. 4,500 rounds per minute. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display shows the missile crossing 6 miles. 5, 4. The phalanx radar holds its lock without wavering. 3 miles. 2. The gun fires. A sustained burst of 20mm rounds pours from the rotating barrels, forming a dense curtain of metal directly across the missile's flight path. The horizon fills briefly with tracer fire and smoke. The incoming weapon flies straight into it, and the sky ignites. 5:32 local time. The explosion blooms across the ocean surface just outside the outer defensive ring of the carrier strike group. The second anti-ship missile disintegrates in a violent eruption of fire and fragmented casing as it runs directly into the stream of 20mm rounds from the phalanx system. For a fraction of a second, the horizon turns white. Then broken pieces of the weapon fall into the water, and the sky clears. Inside the Combat Information Center, the radar track collapses. The second inbound threat symbol disappears from the tactical display. Both missiles destroyed. The carrier strike group has absorbed the attack without a scratch. But the engagement is not finished. High above the fleet, the 2 Iranian Su-35 fighters are still airborne, and now they face a problem they cannot escape. The American intercept fighters have closed the distance. Raptor 1 and Raptor 2 arrive at the engagement merge, accelerating through Mach 1.2, climbing through scattered cloud as the range to the Iranian aircraft drops to single digits. Inside the cockpit of Raptor 1, the radar scope shows 2 large returns directly ahead. Range 9 miles. The pilot designates the lead Su-35 and holds the sensor on it. The radar tone steadies in the headset. Lock. On the other side of the engagement, the Iranian pilot's radar warning receiver begins screaming. The Su-35 rolls hard to the right and pulls into a tight defensive turn, working to break the lock and separate from the threat. But the American fighters are already inside weapons release parameters. Inside Raptor 1, the firing solution is confirmed. Fox 3, an AIM-120. AIM-RAM launches from the Super Hornet's wing station. The rocket motor lights immediately, driving the missile forward and upward as it climbs toward the fleeing Su-35. Once the weapon enters its terminal phase, it guides independently using its own active radar seeker. The Iranian pilot deploys countermeasures without hesitation. Flares bloom behind the aircraft in bright clusters. Chaff bursts fill the air with metallic strips intended to seduce radar guidance away from the actual airframe. The Su-35 pulls into a hard climbing roll, burning energy to change its heading and deny the missile a stable intercept solution. The AMRAAM closes the geometry rapidly. 2 miles, 1 mile, then a detonation. The warhead fires in close proximity to the fighter. The blast does not bring the aircraft down, but the overpressure forces the pilot to abandon his attack posture and disengage. Across the sky, Raptor 2 has already locked onto the second Su-35. The Iranian formation comes apart. The higher aircraft pushes its nose down sharply. The lower one lights its afterburner and accelerates north. Both fighters climb through Mach 1.8 and continue accelerating. They are no longer moving toward the carrier strike group. They are leaving it at maximum speed. Inside the destroyer's combat information center, the tactical display confirms the reversal. Two hostile track symbols bending away from the formation, separation distance growing with each sweep. The American fighters hold their pursuit for several minutes, maintaining radar lock to ensure neither Iranian aircraft attempts a second attack run. But the Su-35 pilots have made their decision. They disengage completely and accelerate further north across open ocean. Their radar signatures diminish on the Hawkeye's display, then shrink below the detection threshold. 5:38 local time, threats cleared. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tension that had built across the last 30 minutes finally releases. Operators run through their final logs. 2 missiles launched against the formation. 2 missiles intercepted and destroyed. No damage to the carrier. No damage to any ship in the strike group. On the flight deck of the carrier, sailors who had watched the distant flashes on the horizon return to their regular duties. Aircraft continue cycling through the launch and recovery sequence. The carrier itself never altered its course during the engagement. It simply moved forward at steady speed through open water, 100,000 tons of nuclear-powered steel surrounded by a defensive network built for exactly this kind of test. Above the fleet, the Hawkeye continues its orbit, radar reaching out across hundreds of miles of empty sky, watching and listening. Because the strike group understands something the distant explosions did not resolve. Those 2 Iranian Su-35 pilots did not fly hundreds of miles out across open ocean by accident. They came armed, they launched weapons. Their attack failed, but in doing so, they revealed something the United States Navy had not had before. And inside the carrier's intelligence center, analysts are already working through every second of the encounter. 6:10 local time. The ocean has returned to its undisturbed state. From the flight deck of the aircraft carrier, the horizon looks identical to how it appeared 90 minutes ago. Blue water, pale sky, and the long white wake of a warship on a steady course. To any outside observer, the morning looks unremarkable. Inside the carrier's intelligence center, the atmosphere is different. Every sensor recording from the last 30 minutes is being replayed in careful sequence. Radar logs, electronic emissions, infrared signatures. Nothing is passed over because the 2 Iranian Su-35 fighters that attempted to strike this formation left behind something more durable than a threat. They left data. From the moment the first radar contact appeared on the Spy-1 Delta scope, the strike group's electronic warfare systems began recording everything those aircraft transmitted. Every frequency, every radar pulse, every targeting signal, every shift in waveform as the Iranian pilots cycled through their different radar operating modes. Inside the intelligence center, a technician scrolls through the recordings in fine detail. Search radar patterns, fire control modes, missile guidance frequencies. Each one is a distinct electronic fingerprint. And the United States Navy now holds all of them. Across the tactical network, electronic warfare officers aboard the destroyers and the cruiser have already pushed their recordings into the carrier's central analysis system. Multiple sensor platforms, multiple angular perspectives, precise triangulation. Together they produce a detailed and layered profile of the Iranian Su-35's combat systems. Radar output power, scan timing, lock-on sequence, missile activation signals. The brief electronic spike that preceded the first weapon release by several seconds, all of it archived and indexed. That information carries lasting value. The next time a Su-35 appears on a radar screen anywhere in the world, American sensors will have a reference. Inside the Combat Information Center, the tactical display is empty and quiet. Normal operating posture has been restored. But the crew is aware of something that did not make it into the engagement logs. This encounter was not only a defensive action, it was also a collection event. And collection events in real combat conditions are rare. High above the formation, the Hawkeye maintains its orbit. Radar sweeping the horizon in steady arcs, searching for any sign that the Iranian aircraft might reverse course and return. Nothing appears. The two Su-35s are well north by now, most likely pushing back toward Iranian airspace at maximum cruise speed. For the pilots who launched the attack, the morning's outcome is difficult to interpret as anything other than a failure. Their weapons did not reach their targets. Their aircraft were intercepted before they could reposition for a second pass, and their electronic signatures were recorded throughout the entire engagement from the moment they crossed the detection threshold to the moment they disappeared from the Hawkeye's radar. Back aboard the carrier, analysts are giving particular attention to the anti-ship missile launch sequences. The infrared footage captures the precise moment each weapon dropped from its pylon and ignited its booster. The radar logs document the guidance system activating. For a window of several seconds, each missile's onboard seeker illuminated the ocean ahead of it as it descended toward its sea-skimming altitude. Those transmitted signals were captured as well. Now they can be studied, measured, and modeled. Future defensive systems will be able to recognize the same weapon's approach profile more quickly and engage it at greater range. Outside on the flight deck, jet engines break the quiet of the morning as two Super Hornets return from their extended patrol. They descend in sequence, catch the arresting wire, and taxi clear of the landing area within seconds of each other. Routine operations resume without pause. The carrier never altered speed during the attack. It never changed heading. For the sailors on board, the engagement lasted under 10 minutes. 2 missiles fired at the formation, 2 missiles destroyed, 2 hostile fighters turned and driven off. But the real product of the morning is not the score. It is what is now being processed quietly inside the intelligence center, because every radar emission, every electronic transmission, every maneuver flown by those 2 Su-35 fighters across 30 minutes of open ocean approach has been captured, time-stamped, and stored. That material will travel far beyond this strike group. It will move into the Navy's distributed intelligence network, into training architectures, into the defensive algorithms that will protect the next carrier, into the planning that shapes the generation of air and missile defense systems currently being designed, which means the Iranian pilots who spent this morning attempting to strike a United States aircraft carrier accomplished something they did not intend and cannot take back. They showed the United States Navy exactly how their aircraft fights, and in the kind of warfare that unfolds across open ocean at the edge of sensor range, that kind of knowledge frequently outlasts any single engagement in the sky. Out on the water, the carrier strike group holds its formation and continues forward. Radars turning, aircraft cycling, ships maintaining their spacing. Watching the horizon and waiting, because the next contact may appear without the warning this one provided. And when it does, the fleet will already know what to look for.